time now for our panel discussion. Here we are in a semicircle, and would encourage each of you with questions to step up to one of the three microphones out in the audience, and please phrase it as a question, and try to at least use a PG rating accordingly. I thought I'd just start it off to each of the panelists, just briefly, given such a varied background experience that each of y'all have. What opportunities would you see, given your area of expertise, for the typical attendee who's representing, maybe a landowner, may have a product, a service, a consultant, a technology, a vendor? For instance, I don't know if, with you, Simon, if that would be an opportunity in China or to export to China, but some brief example of opportunities you may have seen on an international basis.
So the opportunity to export to the China market or the European market or the Southeast Asian market absolutely is there. Some of the people on the panel were talking about the challenges, though, of understanding exactly what it is that's required in those markets. You go to emerging markets, there is a fundamentally different price point. And so people need to, you having a solution is excellent. If you have a solution that's so differentiated, you can have a high price point. However, that position is usually not sustainable. So certainly what we aspire to do, and I certainly would say for most of the companies I've been involved in, you have to have a strategy which is to drive down your cost point such that you can be competitive. One simple reference point: in China today, for biomass to power, the cost per megawatt installed is coming in on a 30 megawatt power plant at about $1.1 million US. In Europe, it's currently in excess of 3.5 million euro per megawatt installed. It's vastly, vastly different. And for the European market to really get traction, the potential is to take that down materially. And that's where we have to go. So people talk in terms of exporting and looking for solutions. I think of it rather differently. I think we need to look at the global market and determine where, when you have the right solution, where do you manufacture it, engineer it, design it to give you the most competitive proposition? And I think you need to be very globally mobile.
Excellent. Christian?
Well, I would bring forward an example that I've experienced going back to this biomass collection scheme, where we have brought clients over to Denmark to show them that you can actually collect wheat straw off the field, and that it's being done every year in Denmark. And we've had farmers come over, we've had ag commissioners from different states, we've had different people come in, and we go out and we visit these people that actually do this. And then we go into their barn to take a look at their equipment, because all the people from the US, they want to see what kind of equipment is it. And it's all made in the US. So we've actually taken equipment made and manufactured here in the US, and we import it to Denmark and use it there and apply it. And now we're actually coming back over here and trying to tell the US market that yes, with locally produced equipment you can actually do things. We do it in Denmark. So it goes both ways. There's technology developed in different places. We've developed some in Denmark, and some of it goes around in China and comes back to Denmark, and that's the way things go. So take whatever you have and go and look for new markets where things can be employed and develop and do things in the location where it's done the best. Simon mentioned that even some equipment can be manufactured in Denmark competitively, which is very strange, because the price levels are so high. But there's maybe engineering skills that are not available anywhere else. So that's my take on it.
Excellent.
I would concur with Christian and with Simon. I mean, realistically, what you're doing, you have to have a product or a process, a technology. You have to prove it out in your home turf, at least to the level that you are comfortable with scaling it up. But once you've established that scale up, now your opportunities are worldwide. And if you are a very small organization, 5, 10, 15 people, I mean, a lot of these things in biomass are really nascent, small organizations to begin with. Then look for partners. look for organizations that have experience in being able to deploy technologies, or perhaps your technology is part of a piece that fits in with an overall structure, an overall process. But then the really active thing to do is to find the right kind of partners that can move you to the next level. But certainly have your eyes open to opportunities worldwide.
I guess I would just echo those sentiments and talk about the importance of partnerships and coalitions and trade groups as well. Something that we're doing at UCIPA is we will be looking at markets in Korea and Japan. There's been a lot of interest in industrial grade wood pellets there. That would enable the opening up of a whole new geographic region in the Pacific Northwest and in California. There are many producers, industrial producers, that are already working with those countries. What we're trying to do as an organization is trying to develop that more so that will create more opportunities over on that side of the country, similar to the opportunities that are down in the Southeast going over to Europe. So I think using partnerships, using coalitions, using folks that have the same interests as you do, participating in your trade groups and industry associations, I think you can help them to drive those opportunities, those market opportunities abroad.
Seth, have you all seen an uptick in the interest out of Japan specifically, given the post-tsunami and
We have. Sadly, obviously the tragedy over there. There's a big question mark with regard to nuclear power, and that energy is going to have to be replaced. And so there will be. It's an unfortunate circumstance, but there will be an opportunity there to get fuel to that area of the country.
Okay, we have got a couple of gentlemen lined up for questions. Please step forward to the mic, and if you'd like to ask your question, if you want to address one speaker or the panel overall.
Thank you all for speaking on this interesting topic today. Seth, this question's more for you. What opportunities do perennial grasses have in the pellet industry, and what areas might they have difficulty in penetrating the market?
I think we've got a number of our members who are looking at additional feedstocks in place of a feedstock coming from wood. And I think that as those technologies are proven, you'll likely see industrial producers adopt those. It has to be proven from a manufacturing standpoint. It has to be proven from on the industrial buyer side that it's gonna have the BTU content that they need. But I think as you see those technologies become accepted, I think you'll see folks in the industrial pelleting industry go after that sort of feedstock as well.
Excellent. Yes, sir.
This question is mostly directed to Mr. Parker, but I'd let anyone in the panel answer this. Yesterday, the state of Massachusetts proposed that wood-burning power plants would only get half a credit if it had a 40% efficiency and a full credit for 60% efficiency. I guess that would only allow perhaps either no wood burning to receive the credit, or maybe only CHP plants. I wonder if any of you had a comment on that, or other thoughts.
So I'm not familiar with the comments that were made yesterday, but what I would say is that the efficiency of the biomass solutions is much, much higher when you actually put heat in addition to power. So certainly when you look at the economic models that are coming out, this is in all the markets we survey, you get a much, much better efficiency of the plant if you're putting district heating, for example, or industrial heat alongside power generation. So we have a number of plants that don't do that, but certainly the economic return should be superior by putting both heating and power generation.
Good question. We haven't seen a lot of CHP new large applications in the U.S. I know certainly in Europe has very large district heating, central heating type needs with fairly, typically a little bit smaller electrical loads, which would get very efficient. I don't know if any of the engineers can comment on those 40 to 60% efficiencies or not.
Well, in Dong Energy, we operate the world's most efficient power plant in Copenhagen, and we have electrical efficiencies on the big boilers. These are several hundred megawatt boilers that exceed 40%, 48% if I'm correct. But that's not doable with the technology today, correct me if I'm wrong, Simon, with a biomass boiler. So the only way you can exceed 40% is either by doing CHP or by doing something else with the biomass. If you take our demo plant, the integration with an existing power plant, we have a efficiency of biomass to energy of 71% without district heating, because we use the heat to drive the process. So that's an alternative way of achieving these efficiencies that go beyond 60%. Now, what we see in Denmark is that legislation is not suited for that, so we don't get credits for that the same way as the power industry does, and I guess that would be the same case in Massachusetts. But in the future, we'll have to do a lot of more intelligent merging of these technologies, so we combine these CHP plants and biorefineries and the biomass refineries that we do to make the best use of the biomass that you can.
Okay, I think if that's okay, we'll move on to the next question since we have 3 others lined up. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, the first question is to Seth. I wonder whether your company consider, or your organization consider, separating lignin and other polymers like cellulose, hemicellulose to a different pellet. This I would think to make the material, biomass material used more effectively, more properly, I would say.
And why don't you go ahead and ask your second question also if you have one more.
No, I ask a different person. Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, just trying to keep it moving.
I might forget the first question if it's possible. I think that there are certainly opportunities there, and I know in talking with our members, who are actually on the ground producing, they are constantly exploring opportunities to make a pellet that is easier, that has a higher BTU content, all of those things, and so I think that opportunity is certainly there.
Okay, thank you. The second one is to Christian. Your company try to expand into including use pentose also?
To include?
Pentose.
Pentose?
Yeah.
Well, we're not, if you want to convert the pentose into something else than energy or feed, you need some microorganisms that can do that. And we're not a biotech company, so we leave that to others. Brad's got some technology, and there are plenty of companies working on that technology. We're basing our current projects on things that already exist commercially. And we are absolutely confident that in the future the C5 sugars will be converted into ethanol or to other high-value chemicals. But it's not a prerequisite for our projects to succeed. But it will happen, I'm sure about that. We don't do that in our company. That's not, in our scope.
Tom, do we have time for these last 2 questions?
Excellent questions, and we'll take 2 more, and then we'll allow Thomas to wrap it up.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had a question for Seth. You alluded to there being an abundance of chain of custody certified material available for pellet production. Especially in the case of the U.S. South or the South Atlantic, some of the conventional wisdom I'm hearing, I do a market report, is that there's some question as to how much material really is available from traditional raw material streams. So in your analysis of that market, would this come from traditional byproduct streams, or would this also come from existing certified pulpwood streams?
I